All right, everybody, we're here with the next project at Gasper's Automotive Restoration. We've got a 1928 Sanford fire engine from Wyantskill Fire Department in New York State. This is in here for a bunch of repairs. It's been restored before. It's a really nice truck, and we're going to talk about it and show it to you right here. Okay, so we haven't had a Sanford in this shop in a long time. My whole career in fire engines actually got started with Sanford. The fire department I was on originally when I first started in 1998 was Hebron Fire Department in Connecticut here. And we got back from a call one day, and there was a 37 Ford fire engine at the back of the firehouse, all this junk on top of it. It was a mess. And there was chairs piled on it, all this stuff. And I asked the captain, what's the deal with that thing? And he said, oh, that's Hebron's first fire truck. So I got curious, and I said, well, you know, is that something I could work on? He goes, oh, just talk to the chief. Well, one thing led to another, and I got it running, cleared all the junk off of it, started driving it around, got everybody kind of excited, and then ended up starting to restore it and started that whole process. And that's how I got into antique fire trucks. And then years later, things led to more antique fire trucks on Martha's Vineyard, and then all kinds of stuff just exploded and everything just snowballed. So, but Sanford is the first brand that I ever worked on. And this truck is just a Sanford. This is a custom chassis. So it is not a commercial truck with a Sanford body on it. It's actually built by Sanford. And the color on this is really unique. I think that's what stands out right away. The gray with maroon here, I would describe this as a kind of a brown maroon. Almost kind of like an American LaFrance red, except for not as much purple in it. But it's a nice combination. It's very unique. I don't think I've seen a fire truck with this color combination before. And the whole thing was done by someone, I don't know if it was the guys at the firehouse, or it was a member that decided to help out, or if it was somebody they hired, but whoever did it did a pretty nice job on this truck. The cosmetics were all gone through, I think, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I'm guessing, just judging by the paint. It's a nice truck. This I really like this right here on the tank. This North Greenbush Fire District. I just like this, the way this is. It's round, and it has a convex end on it. It's really nice. Just a lot of cool little features on this truck. Sanford was built in New York State, I believe. They built custom trucks like this. They built commercial chassis trucks. Pretty much anything you wanted. It was like Buffalo fire apparatus or Maxim fire engines. They got this cool tarp on here with the name. That's pretty neat. Cover up the hose bed. And the nickname of this truck is the Gray Ghost, which I think is kind of a cool nickname. I'm not a big nickname guy with fire engines. I've heard enough of Old Betsy and everything else. A lot of water. I'm not really, that's not my thing, but this particular name I think is pretty cool. And it really fits with the color. And they want us to do a bunch of mechanical stuff on this thing. We need tires, brakes, I think gauges. We're going to go over the list here in a little bit, but there's a bunch of mechanical stuff we got to do on this thing. The other cool thing is the engine in this truck is unique. It's not the original engine. It's supposedly out of a half-track. Now, if you don't know what a half-track is, in World War II, they had an Army truck. It was an Army vehicle called a half-track, and it was a half-truck, half-tank. There was steer tires in the front like a truck, and then the back had tracks like a tank. And this engine supposedly came out of that, but I have not verified that. The manifold is cast Federal, which would be Federal Truck Company. I don't think that they made this engine themselves. They probably had someone else make it for them, and then they just cast this into it. But I have to do some research on it. This just got here, and I have never worked on one of these engines before, ever. So that's going to be interesting to see how that goes. This engine runs really, really good, though. It doesn't make any noise. It runs smooth. It starts right up. So we've got minimal work to do to this, but I'm really curious to see if this was in a World War II half-track vehicle. So, but let's take a look over here at the checkoff list here. So we've got full service with fluids, filters, grease, everything. Brakes, redo the brakes on this truck. Looks like they said there's a problem with the wheel grabbing when you go backwards, which is a common thing. The brake shoes are not adjusted right, or they're gummed up. Clutch adjustment, tires, electrical, carburetor maybe needs a little adjustment. Head gasket, valve covers leaking, wheel bearings, brake pedal doesn't return right. The vacuum, we're going to redo the vacuum assist for the brakes, so that's going to help with that. The gauges, I don't know if the gauges are functioning completely. We're going to get them working. And we got to go through lighting and then the loose floor screws. Apparently there's a guy at the firehouse that has a job just to do that. Every time after they take it out, he comes back, they come back with the truck, and this guy screws all the screws back into the floor. So we're going to fix that problem. We're going to take a job away, sorry, but we're going to fix the loose screws in the floor. So let's quit talking and get started fixing this truck. Okay, everybody, we're back here with Wyant Skill Truck, and we've got an update here on the engine. We pulled the pan on the engine just to see what was going on. The gasket was leaking, and we wanted to clean out the pan and make sure there wasn't any gunk in there. And you can see there's a lot of gunk in there. And we also had this piece of metal that fell out of something, broke off of something in the truck, in the engine. We have no idea what this is. We haven't figured it out yet. We just pulled the pan, but you can see just the sludge in here, just half an inch thick. You can see that stuff on there. So this is just to show you, you need to pull the oil pan on these old trucks. Just because it's running fine, it's got good oil pressure, doesn't mean it's all set. And we went in here and pulled the valve cover to adjust the valves. Went in and adjusted all the valves here. These are all within spec now. They were pretty close to begin with. This engine was in good shape. You can see how clean it is inside. And we redid the thermostat housing. We tested the thermostat, put it back in. The thermostat worked great, so no need to replace that. Brand new hoses and clamps. So this cooling system is going to be nice and sealed up. Took the distributor cap off here just to turn the engine over to figure out which cylinder we're on. That's a really good trick. You just watch your distributor roll around to each point to each cylinder, and you just go in order and do your valve lash. So a little trick there to do that. And we've got the plugs out, pretty oily. You can see the oil pooled up in here. Plugs are pretty oily. We're gonna have to clean them and re-gap them and check them, but I think they're okay. And we went underneath, and oh, speaking of spark plugs, here they are. You can see they're not bad. They're pretty good. They just got a little dirty contacts there. We'll clean that up. They should be fine. Underneath, we removed the power brake unit, which was back here. Here's the hoses for it, and we're sending that out to get that rebuilt. And here's just a view underneath the truck here. I don't know if you can, how much you guys can see here. We've got the transfer case right here. We're going to be draining the oil on that, and actually the oil was already changed on that. Oil's been changed in the rear differential back here. And the next thing is tires and brakes. One thing I forgot to mention is the part here we found in the oil pan when we first took the oil pan off. This was a little bypass tube here, and this is the filter screen. It goes like this in the engine. It goes in this orientation, and you can see on the top here there was a spot for this weld and this little tab over here, like that. And so this was sitting in the bottom of the oil pan in the sump. It wasn't really affecting the oil flow through the screen, which would be on the bottom of this, up into the engine, but it was, you know, not supposed to be there. So we're gonna weld this guy back on here and fix this now. I don't know if this is solder or what. Find out. This is solder, so I have to solder this here. I didn't realize that. I wanted to test it. It's definitely acting like that. But this over here is just a piece of steel with a piece soldered on. I'll see if I can tack this on over here. Okay, now I just have to solder this here. Fixed. We also pulled the floor out to get at some of the brake parts. We took the brake vacuum valve here off of the brake pedal, and we send that out with the vacuum can because you've got to have that fixed with your vacuum can. This is where the signal comes from for your vacuum, for your brakes, your power brakes. So if you're working on one of these, make sure you send both units, not just the vacuum can. Looks like we got a leak here too on this transmission. This is pretty caked up with grease and oil, and I could see a leak right here. It's wet, so we're gonna pop this off and redo this gasket and clean this shifter tower up. It's a mess. Oh, and I forgot one thing I wanted to ask everybody out there that's watching here. What do you think of the paint scheme on this truck? You know, I meant to talk about this and I kind of forgot, but It's really unique. It's like a maroon. It looks like American LaFrance maroon red here, sort of. It's a little bit more brown than American LaFrance. It's kind of more of a brown. And then you've got this battleship gray, which is really unique. I just thought that that was a really interesting color combination when they sent me the pictures of this one. We've got the gold leaf on here. Now, gold leaf, this is engine turned. Gold leaf is, engine turning was something that started in the mid-50s, but that's okay. This thing looks really good still. The gold leaf was done nicely, so it's just a really nicely, restored truck. It's not a trailer queen, but it's done very nicely, and it can be driven around, and it looks great. I mean, a very, very unique color. But, if there's anybody out there that's got pictures of another truck that's colored like this or painted like this, please let us know. Put it in the comments, because I'd like to see it. It's I don't know if I've seen gray and red like this before. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that real quick. And if anybody's got any information on Sanford as well, Sanford fire engines, if they painted things like this, that would be great. But this guy, they call it the Gray Ghost. They got it back here on the rear door. And I've heard of Old Betsy, I've seen a million of those, and a lot of water and all these other names, but the Gray Ghost is a pretty cool name. I'm liking that one. Okay, so we've gone through and removed the brakes on this truck. And we've got the backing plates. The guys have been in here doing a great job. They got the backing plates all cleaned up and painted. Everything looks really good in here. We've got the wheel bearings out, the axles out. It's kind of a strange setup here. If you look at this axle, it's a double-ended axle here. There's a spline on each end. I don't think I've ever seen that style before. And the hub on the end has a spline the same as that, and it's a cap. Actually, it's right here. It's right here in front of me. And that's what drives the axle. So it's actually removable, which is really interesting. Usually this piece is attached to here as all one piece, and the other end just has the spline on it, but this is double. So that's very interesting. And we've taken those brakes down to the rebuilder. We got the drums over here. These drums are gonna get turned here just to kind of touch them up. They're actually in pretty good shape here, but we've got to get that. We've got to get those touched up. There's some, looks like some little heat cracking and stuff there, minor, but nothing major. And we've also been working on the floor over here. Mark, he's a new employee here. We have three of us here now in the shop, and he's working on this floor. He's gone through and completely replaced all these screws that are here. Apparently, the story is when this truck comes back from a parade or wherever it goes, there's one guy at the firehouse that has to tighten all these screws. So he no longer has a job. So that's all been taken care of. All these screws are in here nice and tight. They're threaded into the frame instead of using nuts and washers, I believe. I can't remember exactly how he did it, but I believe that's how he did it, at least on some of them. So that's done. This was all taken up and redone. All this is a plate of steel with a piece of tin on top of it. And while we were in there, we resealed the transmission top. I'm going to show you that. Okay, so we haven't cleaned off the side of the transmission yet, but the shifter top right up there, you can see the RTV that was coming out the edge there, where we resealed the shifter top. We put a new gasket on. We always use Ultra Black from Permatex. That works really good here in the shop. We never have a problem with that leaking. But you could see the transmission has just, it's wet. I think the rear seal on this transmission is also leaking here. So we're probably going to have to take a look at that guy right there. And a couple other spots here, but relatively minor leaking now. The top, the transmission top was definitely, the oil was coming down the side here. So we're going to take a closer look at this transmission and see if there's anything else on here that we can reseal. But someone's been in here too. Looks like, I don't know if this drive shaft is the original one, or it looks like the original one, but the way this is made right here looks suspicious. Like that flange and this is made, looks like somebody did that in a lathe. I think somebody's been in here messing with this thing before, but I'm not sure. Or it could be just from the factory, you never know. Sometimes they had guys working and they just kind of made stuff and slapped it in there, and you never know. So we've got the transfer case right here. This is a Hale. I think this is a 500 gallon a minute pump. I don't think this is a 750. It has 3 outlets, but it doesn't look like the 750 case. I'm not sure. I've got to go look at the tag, but it's a Hale pump, and looks like the standard setup here for the drive shaft and everything. The guys are going through, Mark's going through and greasing stuff and checking out the drive shaft and whatnot. So, and the exhaust on this thing, look at this. This is the crazy thing with the exhaust. They have a collector pipe here coming off of the single exhaust, which you're supposed to have, and then somebody had some extra Y pipes off of something, and they put this on here. Looks like cherry bombs, I think. There's a little bit of red paint left on there, I think. Not really, I don't know, but I think those are cherry bombs. They sure look like it, and I don't know why, but I think somebody got this exhaust off their car and just kind of donated it to the fire department, maybe. But anyway, hopefully they'll let us fix that. I would really like to replace this exhaust with something better than this. This is pretty bad. It's not a big block V8 here. It's just a 6-cylinder. So we're gonna take a look at that. All right, let's go up and take a look at the front brakes. Okay, so we've got the front brakes all removed, and we got the backing plate all painted and cleaned. This is how it should look when you're doing a brake job on anything like this. You have an antique fire truck or you have an old car, whatever it is. You should really take the time to clean things up and, you know, shine up the posts here, make sure everything's clean, ready to go. So when you put it back on, you put a little anti-seize in the appropriate locations, and your brakes are going to work great. We'll look under the hood here. We also did a valve lash adjustment on this engine that probably hadn't been done in a long time. We had the valve cover off to inspect and see what's going on, so we figured we'd do that at the same time. We also restored the thermostat housing and new hose on there, new clamps. The thermostat was really good. It worked. We tested it in a boiling pot of water. It opened up. It worked great, so that was really handy. I don't believe we could find a thermostat for this thing if we didn't have that one working. So I'm not sure where to get one, but the thermostat was a very odd looking thermostat. And we threw a new belt on, a C39, and that ended up being the right size here. I had that, actually had that on the shelf, and we've got a new coil coming for here. This is this truck had a really weird battery system on it too. Let's look at that. I don't think the guys took it out of here yet. They had this throttle here. You can see here the box has a damage point here. It's actually dented in pretty good. This throttle was rotated 90 degrees down here, and this handle was down here. So every time you go to open the battery box, bang, you're gonna damage the box. And you can see many, many years of people opening this thing and damaging this, and you're gonna break this thing off. That's not easy to find. So we fixed that, rotated it 90 degrees. It works great. Everybody's happy. But here's the battery box. It's an unusual spot too. Usually they're on the running board over here, but this one is right here, and it's right actually part of the fender. This side is actually curved in here as part of the fender. That's kind of unique. But you see there's a 12-volt battery and a 6-volt battery. So this truck was 6 volts, and they had trouble starting it, I guess, or they changed the engine actually. This is a Continental 22R overhead valve engine, which is runs great. It's a really good engine. It's got power. It's really nice. Apparently it's out of some sort of commercial truck. I believe it's out of a Federal. The exhaust manifold says Federal on it. It's cast into it, so I'm assuming it's a Federal truck. I'm not an expert on this particular engine, but I would guess that's the case. So it probably came out of early 40s, late 30s, early 40s Federal commercial truck, and they popped it right in here, and it worked great. But they needed 12 volts for the starter, and the truck's 6, so they came up with a plan of having 2 batteries in here, and then they have 2 power disconnects here, one for 12 and one for 6 right here. So you have to turn on 2 switches instead of 1 in order to operate the truck. So the 12 volts is just for the starter system, and then the 6 volts is for the rest of the truck. So why they have the 12 and the 6, but I guess they just didn't want to convert it over for whatever reason. So we're just going to do that for them, and we've gone and built an alternator here. I've gone and made an alternator bracket, an adapter system for this. So this originally had a generator here. It was 6 volts, and we put this alternator on. This is a GM 1-wire alternator. You can see just one stud right here. And I made this plate out of a piece of 3/4 inch aluminum. I machined it so it has a center. It centers on this original plate here where the generator mounted. And we've got a bearing in here with spacers, and there's basically a tongue and groove drive on this, I call it. It's a really simple flat thing sticking out in here. You can't see it, and it engages with a piece I had to make for the alternator here. So as soon as the engine runs, this runs. It's direct drive. There's no belts, and it works really good. So this is all set up for 12 volts, and we're going to eliminate the 6 volts in this truck. So, let me show you that thing on the manifold too. Here's the casting on the manifold. So I'm assuming Federal truck, but if there's anybody out there that's a Federal truck guy or a commercial truck guy that knows that brand, I don't know much about Federal. I don't think I've ever worked on a Federal, but if you know about that, if you could, put it in the comments below and let us know what's going on with that, that'd be great. But we are going to convert this over to 12 volts. So we've got to go through and change the light bulbs in the headlights, the emergency lights, the spotlight, everything. So that's a little bit of a job. We don't have to do any wiring, but we have to change all the bulbs. Let's go back here and see what else we got to change. I think there's just 2 spotlights back here and maybe a running light. We got a couple of lights back here. So someone's put looks like turn signals on here, or just 2 brake lights. I don't think this truck has turn signals. So it's probably just dual brake lights. I don't think, let's see, does it have it? No, it does not have turn signals on it. I think they want to put turn signals on this thing. So this is going to make it very easy here. There's these 2 lights, and we can rig up brake light and turn signal on the same lights there. So that'll be great. We got a can of paint to match this gray paint here. We painted this. We made Mark made one of these. I don't know which one it is. It's on that side or this side, and he painted it gray to match. It came out really nice. We go to the paint shop here. We have a local auto supply house, and they do a great job getting us cans of spray paint to match. Every time they do it, it comes out really, really nice. So you can't even tell the difference there. And we're going to go through here, and we're going to take a look at the dash. I believe today the guy's going to pull this dash out, and we're going to clean up and restore this plate here. As far as the gauges go, the customer asked us to check these. The ammeter works great, the oil pressure, the temperature works, and the gas gauge. This has a gas gauge on it, but the truck never had a gas gauge functional. because the tank that's back here is just a commercial round tank that they bought off the shelf from somebody out of a catalog when they built the truck. So there's no gauge port on that thing. We can't put a setting unit in to tell the gauge to work. So this gauge has literally never worked since 1928. It's just there for show. And the reason that is because when they built the truck, they purchased this dashboard from a catalog as well. So it came with everything they needed. They didn't need the gas gauge, and they said, well, who cares? Just put the dash in there and just tell them that, they know they have to use a stick to check the gas level instead of a gauge, so just leave it there. And instead of having an empty hole, it would look kind of weird. They just left the gauge there, it just doesn't do anything. So that's the story with that. But this truck overall is a really, really cool truck, and we're making a lot of progress on this thing. I think the next thing here is that dash, and we're going to get the brakes put back together, and hopefully our vacuum brake unit and everything else shows up and we can install that. So that's our next task. Okay, we've got our Stromberg SF-4 carburetor here off the truck, and this thing ran fine, but it was leaking here, and I just want to check it out inside. They also had this pressure regulator on here. It's a Mr. Gasket. These things typically can fail, and there's no need to have this. They had an electric fuel pump, so we're going to change the electric fuel pump so we don't need this anymore. And we're going to put the correct fitting on here and just check this whole thing out. Let's see what it looks like inside. Screw this. And this guy, just gas in here. Pour this out. Okay. Oh, more gas. It's got all kinds of gas in it. Man, these things weigh a ton too. They are very heavy. Okay, so we got this thing apart here, and looks like this thing is in great shape. It came apart pretty easy, but I think the gaskets are just old. I got to try to find gaskets. I'm going to call my carburetor guy here. Also, this accelerator pump here is shot. Actually, well, wait a minute. Is it not actually shot? No, it's not. This is leather. The leather. See, these accelerator pumps use leather on the end, and this is actually in good shape. So this is actually no cracks, no nothing. So that'll work. This is in nice shape. Let's see if this comes out. These are the tests if these things come out. Let's pop the float off here. Got our needle here. Whoops, that gasket is really crispy. These gasket kits for these things are getting hard to find. Oops. I'll cut my fingers off here. I think it's starting to move. There we go. Got our whole gasket. We can make a pattern with that. This is our accelerator pump. This is the part that goes bad. Everything else is good on this. It's not broken. This is great. Carburetor is in nice shape. More gas. Now the bottom of the carburetor here really doesn't have too much you can take out. There's a jet here, which you can unscrew. We're going to take that out. I'm going to clean this thing, but there's really not much else you can do. And here's your high-speed jet. This thing is seized. We're going to take this out and clean and fix this too. It's in pretty good shape. It's not clogged. It's just seized up. We'll get that remedied. I'm going to unscrew this. I can see through it. This is clear, which makes total sense because this thing was operating properly. Look at more gasoline. Jeez. No end to this gasoline. Now we have to take the bottom off here and take this out here. Well, this thing is really hacked up here. Somebody took I don't know what they did to this thing. We're gonna have to replace this plug. It's really, really bad. And I have to put this in the vise and take this off. Gonna have to wire wheel and clean this and see what the story is. I might be able to straighten this all out and make this look a lot nicer, but somebody's gotten in here and brazed it and made a mess. Here's the jet here. We have to knock that out. There's the jet. This is all full of carbon. We got to get this cleaned. It's really dirty, but I don't see anything plugged really. I'm going to check everything, but it looks pretty good. Choke shaft is nothing. There's no play. It's working perfectly. I'm not going to bother taking this off. This is a candidate for the tumbler here, I believe. Got a bunch of junk in here. That's the only stuff I could find in the whole thing. That's a good sign. All right, off to the tumbler. here's our carburetor, and I just pulled this out of the tumbler, and you can see we've got some media stuck in here. This is little ceramic, I call them parallelogram cylinders. They're kind of a funny shape. Let's just see if I can get some of these out of here. Sometimes you got to use a little pick. And there's one. There's another one. Let me grab a pick here and pop them out. Got the snap-on pick set here. But you don't need snap-on, Harbor Freight will work. There we go. Now you gotta watch inside, you want to make sure there's no chips and things in there. I think the power valve's down in the bottom here, or check valve for the accelerator pump. This is your accelerator pump hole. There's a check valve down there, we gotta take that out and check that. There we go. But what a job the tumbler does, though. I mean, you know, we talk about tumblers on this show all the time, and they really do a great job at knocking off a lot of the stuff, the old paint that's loose, the rust, just cleans out all the gunk, you know, everything inside this carburetor. It's makes it so nice, and it's in nice shape. This one's in really good shape. You know, I noticed something too about this carburetor. See this carburetor top? See how it's silver color? Well, I believe this is nickel plating. So this is a fire truck carburetor. That's the only thing, the only company or group I would know that would plate a carburetor for show. But I believe this is the original top half, and I believe that this half may be off of something else. Could have been replaced for whatever reason. Maybe it broke, or they had a problem. They couldn't get parts, whatnot. So probably two different carburetors here, two different halves, and it's just interesting. So you gotta go this way. There it is, like that. And we've got a gasket kit coming for this. We're just gonna finish cleaning this thing out and get it ready to put together. So Mark and Drew have been busy working on this thing. We're turning some drums here. These came out really nice. These are the front drums. They've got everything marked. These bearings are in great shape on this truck. There's nothing wrong with them. We're going to reuse them. They've gone and cleaned them. We've taken the seals apart here, seal rings. We had to remove these rings here. They were in here in order to get the seals out and remove the bearings. Kind of a dumb design, really. You have to unbolt all these bolts to take this off, to remove the seal, which is this, and a snap ring. And then you take your bearing out, and then you got to put all the bolts back in, tighten this thing back up, make sure you mark this thing which way it's clocked, because you don't want to have it, you know, not clocked the way it was, and put it in the machine, turn the drum, then come back, take all the bolts back out, put your bearing in, your seal, put this thing back on, and tighten it all back up again. So it makes no sense, but that's how they did it on this particular design. I don't know if this is Timken, I didn't even look at it yet, or Spicer, or who designed this thing, but it's a weird setup on that. And we've got our gauges apart here. They took the dash out. All the gauges work. An interesting note on this thing, if you're working on one of these old trucks and you see a Stewart Warner dashboard like this here, okay, this is a Stewart Warner dashboard. You can see all the components here, all these gauges, Stewart Warners. Okay, this is not made by Sanford fire truck. This is made by Stewart Warner, this whole thing. They bought this out of a catalog when they built these fire trucks. They were building, you know, 40 or 50, 60 fire trucks a year. They bought 50 or 60 of these from Stewart Warner. Same dash you could find in a boat, in a, you know, commercial truck, whatever. That's how this was designed and done. And you'll know that too because there's a gas gauge here, and this truck has no gas gauge because the fire truck, it has a custom cylindrical tank with no gas gauge option. So this gas gauge literally has never been used. It's just there to fill a hole right there in the dashboard so it doesn't look stupid. They just sold them that, and you can see there's no nuts on there. The threads are still dirty. They've never been used. So it's actually a brand new gas gauge. Probably works great, but to go and put a fuel sending unit in this tank would be a lot of work, and it would, you know, you just put a stick in there and you can tell how deep it is. No big deal. That's part of driving an antique fire truck in some cases. But everything here works. We checked this out while it was running. The temperature gauge, ammeter, oil pressure gauge, you know, those are the main ones. Gas gauge obviously is not hooked up. And then the speedometer, we're not sure about the speedometer, but really, do you need a speedometer in this truck? I don't think so. If you need a speedometer, you got problems. But at some point, if they want to, we will, in the future, hopefully, they want us to do this. We will get this rebuilt. It can be rebuilt, and we'll make that work. But not today. Not in this budget on this job. So here's the hole in the dash where they took it out. Got all the wires. Somebody's been in there doing some wiring and stuff. Not too bad. It looks like a painless wiring harness possibly. We saw some labeling on the wiring, so it looks pretty decent. The truck's pretty simple, so it makes it easy wiring. We're going through and changing out the light bulbs here. We're going from 6 volts to 12 volts. They had the dual battery setup over here. We got rid of that. Now we just have one set of cables in here. We're going to run a group 31 in here. This truck's going to be 12 volts. The starter's already 12 volts. And the rest of the truck was running on 6 volts. We're switching that over, so everything's going to be all 12 volt lights. And we've got our alternator on the other side that's done, and installed the new 12 volt coil. All new spark plug wires. Drew and Mark were working on this. This looks really nice. This is how it should look. They had rubber boots on these before, but these are supposed to be bare. You got the little connector right here. That's supposed to be like that. That's how it was from the factory. It didn't have a boot on it. And yes, if you put your finger over there while it's running, you're gonna get shocked. You just don't put your finger there. Up here, they did some electrical, a lot of deleting here. They deleted the kill switch. There was a kill switch here for the 6 volt system, and then this is the kill switch for the 12 volt system. So this is now the kill switch for the entire truck. So you got power coming in here from your battery, you got power going out to the starter motor, and then you've got power here going up to the dash for all the lights and everything else. So this thing's on a switch, and we deleted up here, so it's a little bit cleaner in here. We do have to reinstall one switch here that I took out to get at this throttle. We've got a foot button there for the siren, I believe, which is up here. So we've got to get that guy working. And they're changing the bulb in the siren. You don't have to change the siren if it's a 6-volt siren. When you go to 12 volts, you don't have to change it. It's not going to hurt it. The windings and all the wiring inside the 6-volt motor is way thicker than it needs to be for 12. So you can run this thing as long as you're not, you know, sitting on this thing like the guys sit on the queue all the time in the fire department and run the siren up and leave it there. As long as you're not doing that and going crazy, this thing will last a long, long time without having to worry about the 12-volt problem. And they've gone around and they're cleaning up, just getting ready for putting this back together. We got to clean up bearing nut parts and different components here. Mark's been working on that. So the next step on this guy is putting the brakes back together, getting these light bulbs in, and we're going to get this guy out and test run it. So we're working on the carburetor here and we're continuing our work here and just getting the top all sanded down here. Probably wondering why I'm sanding this carburetor top. And if you look on the bottom here, you can see, I don't know if you could see it on the screen there, but there's gouges and marks and stuff on here. This thing's been kind of beat up over the years, being taken apart, thrown around. So we're just taking off these marks and making sure that this whole surface is smooth. You can see in the corner here, there's a little, I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a little, you know, low spot there. And so we're just going to go back and forth here with this. And we're going to get this thing sanded down. This is pretty good. The gasket's going to take up any more of the gaps on this. So this is nice and flat. It was pretty much flat before, but I just wanted to double check it. So it's one of the tricks you can do is use a piece of sandpaper and then you just, this is a 220 grit, I believe. Yeah, 220 grit. And then you can get rid of the dust and keep on going. This side here is in much better condition. Now I was saying before that these two halves are different carburetors, I'm pretty sure, because this one was plated and this one's not. So I'm pretty sure they got it off of a different vehicle. But we're gonna see if we can hit this one over here. You can see here there's a few sharp edges on the edges here. They're shined up, but not really anything of significance here. So I'm just gonna do a little bit more and then that's it. Yeah, I can just take a file and hit that real quick. The file just hits these high spots for you. And knocks them off, and then when you go to put it together, it's a really nice seal. Okay, now I gotta blow it out with air, and then we can start to put this thing back together. Okay everybody, so while we're waiting on that carburetor kit of gaskets, I wanted to show you guys what we've been doing on the truck here. The guys in the shop have been making a lot of progress on this thing, so let's check it out. We've got, the electrical is one of the biggest things here we've been going through. I don't know if I showed this earlier in the video, but we had two batteries in here. There was a 6-volt battery and a 12-volt battery. I think I explained all that. Well, we've gotten rid of that dual battery system. One of them had to have a charger on it at the firehouse to keep it charged, and they actually had a charger on both of them, but only one of them, the 6-volt side, I believe, was the one that had the generator feeding it when it was running. It could charge that, but the starting battery was just a battery. So we fixed that. We've got a Group 31 in here. brand new, and we've eliminated the cables, the extra cables, and we've got just the two we need. We've also gone in here and eliminated the extra switch here. There was an extra, you can see the hole in the firewall right there. There was an extra Cole-Hersey switch for the 6-volt system. We got rid of that, and we're just going with the 12-volt system, and we left this Cole-Hersey switch over here. So we rerouted the wiring over here for the power for the system and the siren and all that good stuff. So that's all done. It's all 12 volts. We've also gone and changed the alternator, the generator to an alternator, I should say. I've completed this project. I had to put a couple of spacers in here and a bearing and stuff, and now this thing is moving back and forth nice and free on this little drive in there. It's got a little flat drive, so this is going to work really well, and it's just a GM one-wire alternator. If you have a truck with the flat drive style Delco generator, contact us, because we have a way of putting on this adapter plate to eliminate that generator and go with a one-wire alternator. It works great for any GM one-wire alternator. So just contact us in the comments or send us a message on our website, email, whatever. Let us know. We also tried to replace this oil filter. This is the oil filter for the engine, and this oil filter is an external style cartridge filter. So there's no case around it, if you will. This is kind of like a military style filter. In order to change this thing, we're going to have to remove the entire flange down here and pull this off the engine and take this whole entire housing off. The customer doesn't have the budget for that right now, and that's something we're going to have to play with later. So that's just going to stay there. It's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. We put the old filter back on. There wasn't any dirt or any debris in there or anything. We just left it alone, and so that should be just fine. The light bulbs have also been all changed here for the voltage change on this system. We've got all 12-volt lamps in here. All the headlights, the emergency lights. This emergency light was really interesting. If you have one of these, I have never worked on one of these before until now, and I thought maybe you turn this thing here to take the glass off. You actually have to unscrew some screws back here. So if you have one of these and you're trying to figure out how to change the bulb, you've got to take the whole entire fixture off. So this is a, let's see, what does that say in there? It's a Ilco Ryan floodlight. Ilco Ryan floodlight. I'm not really familiar with them. I'm sure there's people out there that are. This is glass, so this has got to be probably 40s vintage, maybe 30s vintage. I don't know exactly, but if you know about this light, please put something down in the comments. Let us know what it is. I'm not a light expert. I know siren light and all that stuff, but some of these emergency lights, there were a lot of companies that made these, a ton of them. So Ilco Ryan floodlight. So we did all that. The floor is all back in here with the shifter. We actually ended up bending the shifter with a torch. Excuse me, I keep saying the shifter, the parking brake handle. We bent the parking brake handle over to the right. If you look now, you can see that there's a decent distance here. Before, when you were in, I believe this is second gear or third gear here, the shifter, the parking brake handle was right here. So you'd smash your hand every time you go into third gear. So not anymore. This is all set. It's working. Right now it's not hooked up underneath because we're working on the brakes, but this shifter is no longer going to be a problem. So that was a nice thing we fixed. We also went and removed the dashboard. It wasn't in the budget to fix the gauges, but we really wanted to repaint this bezel. It was really ugly looking. It had mold on it or something. I forget what it was. The guys took that all out, checked everything, put some new hardware in there to hold it back, and repainted that gauge face. And the gauge face matches the pinstriping now. Instead of being an off yellow, ugly color, it matches this. So that looks pretty nice. And as far as the brake work goes, not a lot's changed here. We're still working on this, waiting on the shoes to come back. The vacuum booster and all the bearings are all greased up in bags, ready to go. We've got some electrical going on back here to try to fix these. These guys were 2 filament light bulbs. If you see these, you see 2 filament lights on the bottom, the bulbs, and then you've got 1 filament inside. So I mean to say 2 contacts on the back of the lamp and 1 filament here. That means that usually 99% of the time this is a power and ground contact. The base of the bulb is not the ground. So if you put your ground on the base and you try to touch it to either one of the contacts, nothing's going to happen. You have to put a ground on one contact in the bottom, and then the other contact is power. Either way, it doesn't matter. So this style socket is kind of rare. Well, it's not rare, but it's just very early, and they got rid of it, I think, in the late 20s, early 30s. It's just not necessary. Everything's grounded, usually through the fixture into the truck. But on this one, it has a separate ground. So we had to find some different sockets. We're going to try to play around with that and see if we can get that fixed, because we have to switch over to 12 volts. And they don't make old antique 12 volt bulbs like that anymore. They're not easy to find. So we got to fix that up. And we've also gone and replaced the fuel pump. They had this fuel pump in. If you're working on an old truck and you're not sure, you know, you've got a carburetor, you got to pay attention to the fuel pump, okay? So this fuel pump is commonly, you know, available at Napa or other, you know, O'Reilly's, I think, has these. Carter makes it. Oh, look at that, still got gas. These are really great fuel pumps. They work really nice, but there's 2 problems with them. 1, they're really noisy, and 2, they're too high pressure for most carburetors. Maybe later carburetors, you get in the 60s, 70s, maybe these are fine. But the early carburetors, they'd only want, you know, 2, 3, 4 pounds tops, okay? So we bought a facet pump here. This is upside down, here we go. This is the number here we used. This is a 12 volt negative ground pump. And we put this in, and this is gonna be maximum 4 PSI. This advertises 1 to 4 PSI in the book. So this pump here is going to work much better on this truck, and it's not going to overcome the carburetor. And that's why they had the pressure relief valve on this carburetor. They had a pressure relief valve right here, and that won't be necessary anymore. So that's going to be going away. Okay, everybody, I'm going to end the video here. I thought we were going to have, you know, time to put this stuff together. We're waiting on brake shoes and a bunch of parts. We're waiting on a carburetor kit and a couple other things. So I'm going to cut the video here. And next video is going to be a rollout on this one. We're going to finish up with brakes and the carburetor. We're going to make some adjustments. So if you're looking to learn how to adjust the carburetor on one of these, the Stromberg SF-4s, SF-5s, we're going to show you that. They're a little bit different than a normal carburetor for the adjustments. And that's about it on this one. So stay tuned for the next video. And please like and subscribe, and you know, hit all the bells and whistles for us, because we really appreciate that. It really helps us make more of these videos. It spurs us on to do that. It helps us out, and it's free. So you can't go wrong. And one last thing, always keep that old iron running. See ya.